continent, you ask.
Yeah, yeah. When you two are together, do you speak English or Dutch together?
Dutch. Yeah.
Dutch.
Okay. Okay. So that's the more comfortable language. That's the one where you feel more yourselves, more easily expressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, but I also really like English actually because I have so much international friends
Yeah,
and
me too.
I don't know, like yeah, and even in Vietnam, like I speak Vietnamese, but I don't speak Vietnamese as well as Dutch. So when I talk to people there, it would be in English. But I'm really comfortable with English too, and I feel like it's such a universal language, and you get to communicate with everyone, no matter
Like
where you're
me.
from.
Yay.
Yeah,
Yay! Go
exactly.
Canada!
Yeah, go Canada. If that is what I am, I suppose that's what I am.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I know, I know. So you were mentioning going to Vietnam, Jenny. So I know that you went to Asia this January, and you spent some time in Vietnam, and you actually went with your father, just the two of you. That must have been such a mind-opening journey.
Yeah, it really, really was. I was in Vietnam for several reasons because I wanted to spend some time with my dad and I wanted to spend time with my family. And I went there around Lunar New Year's, and that was super special because I never celebrated Tết. That's how we call it in Vietnamese. I never celebrated Tết before with my family. And, in Vietnam, I have like seven uncles and five aunties, and like my grandparents live there, and I have so many like nieces and and I never really got to celebrate that because I didn't want to. I didn't know anything about my culture, and now I felt like it was time for me to do that. And I discovered that, like I never saw him as a person that's super funny or super witty, but he really, really is. And to see that, he was around that with his friends and that he was so comfortable with the culture and the language, to see him in that kind of daylight was so different for me because I feel like, for him being in the Netherlands, you really become a different person and you show a different side of yourself because you lost everything. And seeing that he went back and that he was so reconnected with everything familiar to him was really beautiful to see. And and he showed me some places, and we have been hanging out there. And I think spending that time together was really important for him to see that I'm really interested in learning more about the culture and learning more about my roots, and that I'm proud of them.
It sounds like you're going through this process of really reclaiming what it means to be Vietnamese for yourself. And I think that's really special because a lot of third culture people, they continue to live in this in-between space, and they kind of touch their home culture and then they kind of go away, and they touch and then they kind of go away into another one. And it sounds like you've really embraced what it means to be Vietnamese, and also on your own terms, right? Like not just what your family's views of being Vietnamese are, but what the whole Vietnamese culture is.
Exactly, exactly. And what that means to me. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm so incredibly privileged that I get to get both perspectives, like Dutch, but also Vietnamese, and that I get to choose. That is so special.
I want to finish up by asking the both of you a question.
Oh boy.
Which is in this, that's my job. I'm the host. I have to ask questions. Through this process of making the documentary, what did you both learn about yourself? And what would you say to other third culture people out there who are also going through their own struggles of belonging and understanding themselves?
Can I start? I've come to discover that I am so resilient. And that doesn't come from, nowhere. That really comes from my parents. And by making this documentary, I see that they're so incredibly strong. And I've definitely copied those traits from them because I'm a person that never, ever gives up. If I want something, I will get it. I will somehow do it, and I think the message that I want to give to other people is that really you are not alone. There are so many people who want to share their experiences with you. Look for them, find for them. And the most important message is be kind to each other, be open to each other, and have an understanding to each other.
Oriana?
Like I said, I am a person who has a lot of problems with actually deeply connecting to people because of many different reasons. But this documentary really has taught me that the people you're looking for may not be where you think you will find them, which means that you really have to try your best to always be open for new experiences and new connections. Not only where that has to be like a continual process, because you might be shutting people out that may be there for you. For example, I really, really didn't know if I was supposed to go to that Jeugd van the rapping music video thing, because I thought, those are not my people. I love rap, but I don't belong to the rapping. Like, I don't like people who like rap. I shouldn't do that.
I don't like people who like rap.
Exactly.
That whole group of people.
Yes. It's so stupid. So for me, it really has been learning to let that mindset go. And I'm always going to have this problem, but I have learned that there are really healthier ways to deal with it. And that comes to the exact same conclusion as Yennhi. You really aren't alone. At the end of the day, there are millions of people who have stories like you, and they're never going to be exactly the same, but it's going to have so many. You will see patterns, and you will see parallels, and you will be able to talk about things you cannot talk about with just anyone, but you have to be open to it. You have to be open and inviting to be able to have the experiences with others that you are looking for. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for failure. That's what I've learned.
These are such important things that you both said, and I think it's really important to reinforce these notions, because I think many third culture people or immigrants or really anybody who's had a challenging time finding where they fit in, we've all gone through these interactions where, people are kind of telling us, no, you're not this thing. You don't belong here. I think you should actually go over there. That's kind of where I think you should go. And after some years of these kinds of experiences, or for some people, like decades of these experiences of being questioned or being challenged as to who they are and where they belong, sometimes it can be really easy to internalize that and believe that there's something just, either wrong or too different about you. And, you start to get more and more conservative in how you approach the world. You start to become less and less open. Like I myself, I remember how open I was when I was in my 20s, and now I'm in my mid 30s, and I'm like, wow, I'm not as open as I used to be. I think it's because I've just, seen too many things in the world, just gotten a little bit cynical and jaded about the world. And this is, we have to remind ourselves, because that's how people get set in their ways as they get older and older, is that they become just kind of withdrawn from, a bit more rigid in the world. And we have to actively work to overcome that. It doesn't happen by itself. As you said, Jenny, before, growth doesn't happen at all when you're in your comfort zone. And we have to first be uncomfortable before we can learn to be comfortable in a situation. And it's also really important to reinforce that there are your people out there. We just need to be persistent and keep on looking for them. And it's getting easier and easier to find the other people like us because of the connectivity. Thank goodness for the internet. I wouldn't have found you. I wouldn't have found the two of you 10 years ago. There's no way I would have found you. And now it's like we can, find others just with a click of a mouse, which is just, incredible to me. So it's really important to be persistent. And I really liked what you said, Orihana, is that sometimes it's unexpected where you find your people. I have often been surprised when, I always used to think, oh, I'm Canadian, so I should fit in with other Canadians. And when I've looked specifically for, Canadian groups to hang out with, or even, Chinese Canadian or Asian Canadian groups to hang out with, often I've been really confused and put off by feeling like, actually, I don't think we do have anything in common except for our passports. which is very strange. And then you're like, okay, well then what does bring us together? It seems, I thought we had shared values, but apparently we don't. Oh, I thought we had shared ethnicity, but actually that doesn't mean that much. So what does it mean? And you have to kind of really ask yourself the questions of what's important to me, what do I like, what kind of people resonate with me, and you kind of throw away all those other external label filters, and you have to go to what is the essence, what is actually true just for you. And that can take some time because it's not easy. You know, you can't just like use your eyes to search for it. You have to kind of use your heart to search for it.
Like we did, Yennhi.
That's beautifully put. That's really beautifully put. Yeah.
Yeah, like you did, exactly. Yennhi and Orihana, this has been such an enjoyable interview. Thank you both so much. I really feel like I opened up a box of special experiences, just hearing the two of you talk to each other, and what a wonderful dynamic you have with each other. Not to mention this incredible life-changing documentary that you made together. So The Scars of War, we're going to put that in the show notes, and it'll also be in our resources page on the Beyond Asian webpage.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Beyond Asian, Stories of the Third Culture. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We have a preview of our next episode coming up for you. Before we roll it, you can find any resources referenced today in the show notes. If you resonated with what you heard on the show today, follow our Facebook page to get updates on what we're working on, and our Facebook group to add your voice to the conversation. Got the perfect third culture Asian guest for us? Get in touch on our website, beyondasian.com, or simply email us at beyondasianpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be back with another story soon. In the meantime, you can subscribe to our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, and nearly all your regular podcast watering holes. We are a growing podcast and therefore need your support and reviews to keep bringing you more stories like this. I'd like to thank Miho Lin Soon, our creative strategist and lead designer, Chicho Coppola, our 3D designer, Rami Farajpur, our developer, and Alexandra Heller, our director of marketing, for helping to bring this podcast to life. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our growing community of courageous guests who have generously shared their stories with us. Beyond Asian, Stories of the Third Culture is hosted and produced by me, your Chinese-Canadian third culture kid in Berlin, Sen Jan. Here's what we've got in store for you next time.
I used to joke with my friends, I highly recommend marriage and shortly getting divorced afterwards so you can find yourself.
Rock bottom isn't pretty, but for those of us who've been there, we know that in the darkest of places is often where we can face who we truly are and tap into our innate potential to heal and to grow. In episode 7, Han-min Yang in Toronto shares how struggling with his Korean-Canadian identity and a devastating divorce led to the creation of a video-based dating platform to celebrate the Asian experience.
I hit rock bottom. For me, I wasn't anything. I was building myself up to be this husband and father and successful businessman, and now there's a big red X in my history, divorce, that thing that I had always dreaded. So it was devastating. But it was freeing because I knew like I had fucked up already. I had failed in every way possible. I had let my parents down. I had let everyone down, my friends. So I just didn't care anymore. Like there was no one else I needed to please but myself. I want to create a dating app that allows people like me to tell their story and meet others like ourselves and to find that meaningful connection. My story is something that maybe 95% of the world will never experience. Only people like you and me will. My question shifted from what am I to how do I find happiness?